Good morning, dear students. Today, we're going to explore syntactical stylistic devices. We should know at the end of the lesson the purpose of syntactical stylistic devices and why we need stylistic device in the context or in reading or in communication or in writing. At first, we should know what is sentence, because sentence is very useful during the stylistic devices. The sentence is as a unit of a certain level, a sequence of relatively independent lexical and phrasal units. It's words or word combinations. And what differentiated a sentence from words? It's fact that the sentence structure is changeable. It does have any consonant length. It can be shortened, it can be extended, it can be completed or incompleted, or just simple, compound, or complex. Besides, it constitutes length, word order, as well as communicate type. For example, assertion, negation, integration, or exoration. They are variable. The syntactical stylistic devices of English language based on reduction of initial sentence model. There are ellipses, appositions, nominative sentences, ascendanted, etc. And it's based on extension of initial sentence model. There are repetition, enumeration, polysyndeton. For example, it is he, it was he, who are like this. This is the emphatic verb to do in the parenthetical sentence. It's also based on change of word order. For example, inversion, detachment, and it's also based on interaction of syntactical structure in context, parallel constructions, for example. And the last one, it's based on transposition of meaning and connection, constitute parenthetical questions or parsley. The first one is ellipsis. An ellipsis sentence is such a syntactical structure in which are the no subject or predicate or both. The main part of elliptical sentence are omitted by the speaker intentionally in cases where they are semantically redundant. For example, hello, who are you? The stop. In communication functions, ellipses save speaker from the needless effort, spares his time, reduces redundancy of speech. Elliptical structure may also reveal such speaker's emotion as excitement, impatience, delight, etc. As a stylistic device, ellipse is an effective means of protagonist's portrayal. The deliberate omission one of them or more words in the sentence for a definite stylistic purpose is called the stylistic device of ellipsis. The omission of some parts of the sentence is an ordinary and typical feature of the oral type of speech. The stylistic devices of ellipsis is sometimes used in author's narration, but more frequently it's used in represented speech. The stylistic device of ellipsis used in represented inner speech creates stylistic effect of natural abruptness and the fragmentary character of process of thinking. For example, a dark gentleman, a very bad manner, In the last degree, constrained, reserved, definite, and troubles. You see? Second one is ascendanton. Ascendanton is a deliberate omission of structurally significant conjunctions and connectives. For example, John couldn't have done such a silly thing. He is enough clever for that. Fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins. Cocking tails and pricking whiskers. In communicative functions, ascendanton makes speech dynamic and expressive. Sometimes it's implied the speaker's age, nervousness, and impatience. For example, Soames turned away, head on uttering disinclination to talk. The next one is repetition. Repetition is stylistic repetition of language unit in speech, separate words, words combinations, or sentence. Is one of the most frequent patient stylistic devices. For example, never take the rival again. Put it back. Put it back. Put it back. Repetition is used when the speaker is under the stress of strong emotion. It showed the state of mind of the speaker. Or, for example, "Stop," she cried. Or, "Don't tell me. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear what you have come for." You see, I don't want to hear. This is a repetition. I don't want to hear show the excited state of mind the speaker. Repetition aims of fixing the attention of the reader and key words of utterance. There are some structural types of repetitions. Next one is anaphora. Anaphora is a repeated word or word combination. Is that at the beginning of each consequent of syntactical structure. For example, victory is what we need. Victory is what we expect. Ignorant of how Soames watched her. Ignorant of her reckless desperation. Ignorant of all this. In these sentences, anaphora serves as a literary device of emphasize words and ideas in general. When we use it correctly, it can also have lyrical and artistical effect. Readers often remember passages with anaphora in the same way they remember musical refrains. This is not only enhanced the reader's language, knowledge, and enjoyment, but it's also increased the writer's ability, communication, and reinforce meaning of their words. The next one is epiphora. Epiphora is literary device that is exactly opposite of anaphora. Epiphora contains one or many repeating words at the end of consequent or neighboring lines. Make sure your line must have some words placed before epiphora. Otherwise, that epiphora will be considered as refrains. Epiphora is also known as epistrophe, or sometimes epiphora is also called antistrophe. If these repeating words are placed at the end of the multiple lines, but those are not consequent places at the end of the multiple lines, but those are not consequent in structure, that can be considered as epiphora. For example, it's natural to be scared in case like this. In these sentences, in case like this are epiphora. Inversion. Inversion is similar for you, is unfamiliar for you. Inversion is syntactical phenomenon of internal changing word order in initial sentence of model. For example, to her family, Martha gives all her time. Stylistic inversion aims at attaching logical stress or additional emotional coloring to the surface meaning of utterance. Therefore, a specific intonation pattern is inevitable satellite of inversion. Stylistic inversion in modern English should not be regarded as a violation of norms of standard English. It is only practical realization of what potential in language itself. One example: green were my jealous eye, and cool was in summer breeze. Framing. Framing is the most effective singling out paragraphs. It's more often needed in poetry, though we can find a great deal of emotive prose as well. This type of repetition can compromise any part of the text, a sentence, paragraph, a page. It's extreme case when it starts from the title and comprises the whole text. In most cases, framing is the aimed foregrounding logical and emotional of repeated element. So, by the time it's used the second time in semantics, it's considered and specified. Nothing ever happened in that town left by the advance of civilization. Nothing. It's Morgan's sentence. You can see it in this sentence framing. Next one is chiasmus. Chiasmus comes from the Greek word meaning crossed, and it refers to grammatical structure that invert a previous phrase. That is, you see one other thing and that you see something very similar, but flipped around. For example, don't sweet the pretty thing and don't pat the sweetie. In this sentence, chiasmus usually occurs on the sentence level, but can also be found in much broader structures. That is, you might have a paragraph that talks about a town, state or country, and the words can go back down in reverse order at the end. However, these structures are much harder to see, and their rhetorical value is pretty detailable. So, this article focuses only on the chiasmus at the sentence level. For example, live simply so that others might simply live. I think you understand this sentence where the chiasmus going on. Now, next one is polysyndeton. The definition of polysyndeton is repeated use of coordinating conjunctions to connect different items in a sentence. The repetition of conjunctions but, or, nor, and in close succession is a deliberate style choice. The place emphasizes on each list, word or phrase. This effect is often an excited or serious mood. The word polysyndeton comes from the Greek syndeton, which means bound together. Polysyndeton, quick succession of words or phrases, creates a powerful rhetorical effect in writing. As one of the thoughts finishes, the next one of the right behind, which can purposely overwhelm in the reader. The dog barked and pulled the jack, and growled and ragged. Next one is ascendant. Ascendant is a literary device in which conjunctions such as but, and or there are intentionally omitted to change sentences' tone. Ascendant pronounces sin da is ancient Greek words that means unconnected. Ascendant serve multiple functions in writing: to seed off a speaker or writer's rhythm, change the tone of what's being said, and added emphasis. For example, one of the most example: I came, I saw, I concurred. The omission of conjunction makes this quote concise, adding emphasis of underlying battle sweetness. One of the example is, one of the second stylistic devices is parallel constructions. Parallel constructions mean that words or phrase are written in the same form. If one phrase is used the verb form ending is ing, then other's words should be too. Or one of the phrase used the noun form ending is also should. Now, parallelism is stylistic devices of production. Two or more syntactical structures according to the same syntactical patterns. For example, Mary cooked dinner, John watched TV, P.T. played tennis. In this communication function, syntactical parallelism is polyfunctional. It creates rhythm and it's typical of poetry. It makes speech persuasive and it's a feature of publicistic and oratory style. It underlies important information, is widely used everyday speech. Next one is detached construction. Detached construction is a secondary part of the sentence placed so that it seems formally independent of words, logically refers to. The detached part of being torn away from its reference assumes a greater degree of significance. Stein rose up, grinding his teeth, pale with fury in his eyes. The stylistic device is akin of inversion. Detached constructions produce a much stronger effect. For example, I want to go, he said miserably. Next one is anadiploses. You can say the other words with application. This is the last words of phrase. One of the part of the utterance is repeated at the beginning of the next part. This is compositional part, is also called chain repetition. A smile would come into Mr. Puckwick's face. The smile extended into laugh, the laugh into a roar, and roar became general. Any repetition causes some modification of meaning, which needs analysis. The function of repetition are following. For example, to intensity of utterance, those evening bells, those evening bells. Mediation, sadness, reminiscence, and other psychological emotional states of mind are suggested by the repetition of the phrase with the intenseful user. Prevalence or tautology is use of more words in a sentence that are necessary to express the meaning. There are two examples. The first one is, it was clear, starry sky, and not a cloud was to be seen. Next one is, it was the only survivor. No one else was saved. Syntactical clearness is using the excessive words with a sentence structure without adding by meaning. For example, a double negative like I cannot look is a syntactical pleonasm. Next one is enumeration. Enumeration is also stylistic devices by which separate things, objects, phenomena, actions, properties are named by one so that can reduce a chain. The lengths of chain are forced, displayed some semantic homogeneity. For example, I bought X, I bought bananas, or I bought cakes. In this sentence, you can make enumeration. The grouping of the sometimes absolutely heterogeneous notions meet the peculiar purport of writer. Enumeration is frequently used to depict scenery, though a tourist's guide as it gives an insight into the mind of the observer. The next word is suspense. Suspense consists arranging matter of communication in such a way that less important part of embedded at the beginning. The main idea being vital till the end of the sentence. Thus, the reader's attention is held and his interest is kept up as the is in the state of uncertain and expectation. Suspense goes together with climax. Climax, or you can say gradation. Climax or gradation is arrangement of the sentence which secures a gradual increase of significance, importance, or emotional or tension in the utterance. The gradual increase in significance may be measured in three ways: logical, emotional, and quantitative. Emotional climax are mainly found in the sentence. For example, it was a lovely city, a beautiful city, a fair city, a veritable gem of a city. The quantitative climax is the evidence increased in the volume of the concept. They looked of 100 houses. They climbed thousands of stairs. They expected innumerable kitchens. The function of the stylistic devices to show the relative importance of things as seen by the author. This one, an antithesis. Antithesis is a stylistic opposition, setting the one against the other. In order to characterize these phenomenon form a specific point of view, it may be necessary to find point of this sharp contrast. For example, a saint abroad, a devil at home. Youth is lovely, age is lonely. Youth is fairy, age is frosty. Man proposes, God disposes. Antithesis has the basic function of reason, forming because of the parallel construction on which are founded. One of the, for example, graved ages and youth cannot live together. Youth is full of pleasant, age full of care. You see? In this sentence, you can see the antithesis because there is a opposition of something words. Next one is ellipsis. Ellipsis refers to any omitted part of speech that the understood. The omission is intentional. In writing and printing, this intentional omission indicate by the row of 3 dots or asterisks. Ellipses always imitated the common feature of colloquial language. This is punctuation. Mark is called suspension point or ... Litotes. Litotes is a peculiar use of negative construction. The negotiation plus noun adjective establish a positive feature in person or thing. Its deliberate understatement used to produce of stylistic effect. Litotes is not pure negotiation, but negotiation that includes affirmation. For example, it is not bad. It's a good thing. It is not coward. He is a brave man. Such a negative construction have a stronger effect on the reader that affirmates once. For example, she was not without taste. In these constructions, with the two negotiation, not alike, not on compromise, not displeased, make positive phrases. This is all for today. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, you can comment in the social media. See you next time. Bye bye.